What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Rapflix Radio. I am your host, as always, Kyle Rapp. Today's episode I'm really excited to talk about. I think it's something that a lot of individuals, whether you know what your dreams are or you're just trying to figure them out, adapting to change and chaos is going to be necessary for you to reach your goals and your dreams and all that you're extremely excited about. So today I'm going to talk about why change and why this chaos is a superpower that you should absolutely use. I'm going to explain what your call to adventure is, if you've heard that calling or if you're still sort of searching for it. And then I'm going to give you guys some action steps to really alleviate some of the fear and pain that can come along with change and chaos. And my hope is that you walk away from this episode feeling at ease with the next step that you need to take and creating this vision for your life. And if you create a massive vision, you guys have big goals like I do, change and chaos is inevitable. And we need to get out ahead of it, both psychologically and with our planning and execution, so that we're ready for it when it comes, when we decide it needs to come, because life's going to throw change and chaos at us regardless. So let's be ready for it, right? So let me start with this and why I moved to Florida in this nice ass apartment. If you've seen the photos on Instagram, and I picked a really interesting time to record this episode because I can share a story with you that just happened last night. So I go out, the pool on weekends is decently filled during the weekend. During the day, I rarely run into people during the weekdays at night. So I take up a book and was planning on reading, and ran into two people that I have previously talked to, and I said, screw it, screw the book. I'll hang out with people. Like, that's part of the reason why I moved to a nice place that has a community aspect to it, was to meet new people and get around some, like I said, new people. And I don't want to say this like I'm an arrogant asshole, but like a higher class of people. Like, these people are doing well if they can live here, and that's very important for me if I want to take the next step in my evolution. So we're talking, and Jack asked what I did, and I went into, I own my own performance coaching company and media consulting, and I felt like I talked for 20 minutes, but it was probably like 2.5 minutes, and they were both like, wow, that's awesome. You clearly love your job because you speak with such enthusiasm and excitement. I'm like, oh yeah, I love this because I know what it's like to not love what you do. And I just could not see myself anymore working till I was 65, 70, 75, doing something I didn't like. And mid-20s, that was my reality. I saw what my assistant GM's life was. He was miserable. I saw what my GM's life was. He was even more miserable. And I saw that within the confines of the private golf club industry. And it was my time to exit and completely restart my life, which really fucking sucks. And I usually don't swear too much on this podcast. I might start just to reiterate how badly it sucks to restart your life. But would I do anything different? No. Because I got the results that I wanted. If I crash and burn one day, maybe I'll be, maybe I'll say different, but I highly doubt it. But it was me taking the chance. It was me understanding that, wow, my life's going to completely change. And the security and comfort that I have living at the golf club for free, having basically everything taken care of, I'm just there to work. And now I'm financially dependent on myself. And that's it. And it was 3 years of working my ass off, moving to this place. I know I sidetracked from this story. So, we're chatting, and one of them asks, can I ask you for nutrition advice? I'm like, yes, please do. I love talking about this. Even Ed Milet talks about this. He said, there wasn't a time too long ago where no one gave a shit what I had to say. So, any questions, I absolutely love to talk about this stuff. And we get to talking, and I get a little an understanding of his background and what his goals are, what his struggles are, just as a casual, like, well, what's up. And he said, I'm interested in fitness and nutrition coaching, and my eyes just lit up. I'm like, yes, this is my time to guys, it's a great feeling. I love Mind Design Complete. I love coaching people one-on-one. I love the podcast side. I love making people's dreams come true with having their own podcast and taking all of the obligations off of them for them to just record. But I have a deep desire to want to coach people with training, nutrition, sleep, and recovery. And he was more interested, so I gave him the application. We met today, actually this morning, and he signed on for 3 months. And it's an investment to work with me. So needless to say, I'm really, really excited. I can't retire from it, but this is the start, guys. This one will turn into, just like the podcast, that it started with 1, and now I'm up to 13, hopefully 14 this month, and it's going to go the same way with the high performance coaching. It's going to go the same way with the Body Design Complete, and I have conviction and confidence in it, but I'm not arrogant about it. I'm working my ass off every single day. I'm learning new things, and bringing it back to order and chaos. For me to be able to say all this and do all this, it took a lot of courage. It took a lot of planning. It took vision work, which I'm going to explain later. And I want this feeling for you. If you're listening to this podcast, I want you to do what you were meant to do and what you're destined to do. And whether it's through my free content or you decide to become a client, I want this feeling for you because nothing beats it. So let's talk about order and chaos. For me, order brings consistency and a frame of which to operate from. This is why I'm talking about morning and evening routines, your pre-performance routines, your pre-work routines, all these things that give you a frame for the day and allow you to feel confident within performing on the dotted line or this field. It feels safe and secure, and you can focus on that particular thing and be in the present moment. Chaos, on the other hand, is where growth, change, and new ideas happen. This is where things are invented that people go, holy shit. Who would think of that? We need both of these in our lives, and we need to know when to use them and what we need to use them when. And resistance will come up in both areas, both in, I won't say the boredness of the order, but sometimes you'll want to change it up. And in the chaos, there's so much resistance because changing something, upgrading something, it comes with a lot of imposter syndrome. It comes with a lot of fear of failure, fear of success. If you guys go back and listen to my fear series, it covers all 5 of those. That's a lot of what chaos can do. So let me explain what the resistance is. The Resistance Greatest Hits is a chapter from a book called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. And for me, 2018 and beyond is when the light turned all the way on for me, and I made a bunch of changes all at once. He lists 13 of Resistance Greatest Hits, and I was doing 12 of them simultaneously. Now, some of them overlap, and I'm just covering 4 here. But understand, like, my life for the better part of 2.5 years was just constant change and constant growth and constant evolution at a very rapid pace. So I want to start with creative pursuit, and I believe an entrepreneurial venture is a creative pursuit. I believe coaching and coming up with my podcast design offer, for instance, came up with that out of thin air based on a need that I saw within the online fitness world. I offered like editing, producing, copywriting, promotion, all the things that a successful podcast has. Sorry about that. And put that together in an offer, charge what I charge. And for me, that's like creative pursuit, is putting that together and having that sort of, if you want to call it chaos, you can, but having that, the creative mindset to allow yourself to do that. I've told a couple people this. I'm working on a book that I'm hoping will be out by November. That is an absolute creative pursuit and something that I've wanted to do since 2019. I've just kind of landed on what the format and what I wanted to do with it. But I had that in the back of my mind. An entrepreneurial venture, and this is what you're seeing right now, Rapflex Performance and Rapflex Media Consulting and Performance Coaching, that I wanted to go all in on, and I did. And that started in 2018 till now, and it looks very different, as it would. It constantly evolves. Health regimen. I hired Jordan when we started working together. I was supposed to do like YouTube for fitness coaching, and one thing led to another. I wasn't the greatest client at that time and fell off, but I finally understood how training programming worked. I understood macros at that point once he taught me all the things that go into tracking and measuring, and I was doing all those things while starting a business, while doing a creative pursuit, while going for my master's degree in kinesiology with a sports psychology specialization, while going through a personal development journey and finding out just who the hell I am, going through a spiritual journey, as I think we all do to a certain extent, of what is life, what is the meaning of life, are my beliefs, or are they just programmed into me, what else could there possibly be? There's a few other things. I won't bombard you with kind of all of them, but that gives you a good understanding of the chaos that I put myself into all at once. Now, some of it was by choice, and some of it was just like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? And through that, I was able to build a lot of confidence and resiliency and just sheer willpower in myself to know that I can handle anything that is thrown at me, because I did all this. And again, I want this feeling for you, this feeling of just elation and being proud of yourself. And you don't have to do all these things at once. I wouldn't recommend it. But to reach the next level of who you want to be, it's going to take this amount of courage to go after things that resistance gets in the way of. So your call to adventure. And I heard my call to adventure around 2018 when I started working in the online marketing world and had just started my master's degree and saw what I saw, what the possibilities were in the online space, and where I thought the field could go in the next, 10 to 50 years. And that's generous. It's constantly evolving in my mind, but I had this call to adventure and this newfound purpose to make a dent in the physical and mental health crisis that I believe exists upon the world. And it's not just obesity and diabetes and depression and anxiety. It's really anything that gets in the way of us thriving and living our best lives. I think that is a crisis that needs, for those who want to hear it, a different way to think about things and approach life in a different way. And Brendan Burchard talks about the comfortable life versus the charged life. And it's just kind of his way of saying average versus elite performers. And it's on the... never mind. I'm just going to go into it. If I think of it, I will. But with a comfortable life, no connection with the change you want in life and work, and no intention and execution because you have no plan. You're not writing down, you're not goal setting, you're not doing all the things that I've talked about in previous episodes. With a charged life, you write, plan, execute, and measure yourself every day on that change. Inside that is the daily routine and order that we need, but we're working towards the change and chaos that we know is inevitable, that we really truly want in life. And that's the difference. The word I was looking for was condescending. So on a scale of 1 to 10, between because you hear average versus elite performers, or normal bodies versus obese, if you're talking BMI, comfortable versus charged life, I would say is about a 5. There's a lot more condescending, sort of bridging gap, and it's cool if you want to be in the comfortable life, but you're probably not listening to this podcast, so I can move on. So I'm going to talk about why change is a superpower for you. If we stay the same, we are missing out on the greatest natural human desire that we are biologically designed for. We need to strive. We need to set the next step, that next goal. We are biologically designed to do that, and our neurochemistry rewards us for doing that. But we get in the way so much of ourselves, from resistance to other people's opinions, feeling like you're not worth that dream or what you would get as a result, that we go against our biological nature and what God says about being fruitful with our lives. And I want to talk about planning the change so that you can be ready for it when it happens, and it's your choice when it comes about. And this is when I talk about vision design within the Mind Design Complete curriculum. And one of my favorite weeks, modules to go over with people, because we finally, we've done a lot of inner work at this point to figure out exactly who we are. And then from there, we want to decide where do we want to go. And my vision design process and protocol starts with a perfect day, which I have covered in a previous episode on vision. But it covers, if you had 24 hours and you could do it any way you wanted, what would that look like? What time would you wake up? Who would you be next to? What does your house look like? Do you have pets? Where do you live? What do you do for a living? What time do you start work? What's your morning routine look like? Do you have breakfast, lunch, dinner with your spouse? Do they do the same thing that you do and you guys work together? Do they not? Is that too much time together? That's cool too. Does what you do fill you up every day? I'm not just, we all have rough days. But at the end of the day, do you go home proud of what you do? What does going home look like? What would a perfect dinner with either, by yourself or with your dog or with your significant other, what would that look like? And then what would the night look like? What would you do? And then we go over what a perfect week would look like. Monday I'm doing these things. I'm content batching. I'm coming up with content ideas and planning out my episodes for the month. And Tuesday I record. I'm full of energy. Like I love teaching. I love coaching. I'm able to crank out 3 to 4 episodes a week, and I'm mentally talking about my week next week. Wednesday I have off, and I'm going to go to a coffee shop and just hang out and write. I'm going to train 5 times this week, and it's going to be amazing. I'm going to see my body change. I'm going to feel so great. Thursday I'm going to work on podcasts. I'm going to have a client meeting. We're just going to absolutely crush it together. Like they're going to see so much progress because of how intently I listened, the quality of questions that I asked, and their subsequent response and thoughts about what I asked. And they're going to go home thinking, wow, I'm ready for the next step. And then the weekend rolls around, and I have plans with family, and we're going to have such a great time together, and I feel so accomplished for the week because I put in the work, I put in the effort I know I had, and I can now spend time with the people I love. Doesn't that sound better than just living your life day to day without any sort of plan or intention behind it? And then from the perfect day and perfect week, we start to set out what ideally each area of life will look like. So what does your health look like? What do your finances look like? What number do you want to see in the bank account? What does your career look like? Your relationships? Your spiritual practice? Your hobbies? Outside interests other than work? Those are important too. Are you investing in those things? All this adds up to creating a plan at the end to say, okay, this is what I want for my life. I'm really excited about this. What's in my way right now? What do I need to learn? What beliefs do I need to work on? What roadblocks do I need to get over? Who do I need to hire next? What is my plan within the next year, 3 years, 5 years? If everything went according to plan, it never does. So don't get me wrong. But with that, with going through that exercise, we are able to then take the change and chaos and put it on our own timeline and aggressively work towards it and make that change and that chaos desirable instead of us fearing it, because we decided the steps it took to get there, and now when it comes, you're ready for it, and not only are you ready for it, you're excited for it, and you're going to take the next step that's probably would scare the shit out of you if you started with it. But you've built that courage and confidence through going through this process or any process that allows you to future cast what you want and then be mentally prepared when you're given it and that time comes. So my goal of this episode is for you to strategically plan out change and chaos in your life and get yourself ready for when it comes and to make sure it's the right change for you. And that's my biggest thing. And that's when I talk about design, it's customization, it's personalization. I want to make sure you're doing what you want to do, not what your parents want you to do or society or what's safe and comfortable. You may want to be a doctor, you may want to be a nurse, you may want to go into the armed forces. But I just want to make sure it's right for you because you only have this one life that we know of. So what do you want? Consider the questions that I asked during the vision portion. And then write it down, damn it. Because we are bombarded by everyone else's hopes, dreams, and demands that we typically forget our own when struggles come, especially. And then from there, can you make 5 steps to get from A to B? If you could boil it down to 5 steps from start to finish, you demystify what it takes to accomplish whatever that goal is. To write a book, it takes writing the damn book, editing the book, printing the book, putting it up for sale, marketing the book. That's pretty much it. If you can break it down into 5 steps and do the 5 steps instead of worrying constantly about what other people will think or your own insecurities, it'll make it a lot easier when you finally get what you want and you're faced with the change and chaos. And not everything about change and chaos is going to be great. Moving's a bitch. It was awful. And you know that if you've moved recently. But it's worth it. Because you'll be in the new place and you're excited about it. So to wrap up, I believe change is inevitable if we want to become great, period. And only you know what that looks like for you. But I don't want you to hold yourself back. I want you to be completely honest with yourself, and that takes time, and that takes effort, and that takes not doing other things to figure that stuff out. But how much control we take over the change is where the magic happens. So spend time planning, strategizing, and that will get you a lot further ahead. But don't spend all your time planning and strategizing and not executing, because that's my problem. And then boil the change down to 5 steps if you can. I think if it's more than that, you can chunk, and that will give you a better understanding of what needs to happen next. And this one's key. Teach yourself to be happy along the way of change. It's gratitude. And I know you've probably heard about gratitude and gratitude journaling and why we should be grateful every day, but it's true. Guilt shouldn't come from thinking that other people have it so much worse than you, but it sometimes does. I like to think of gratitude as like, I've got 2 hands, I've got 2 feet in my own sort of sphere. I'm very grateful, regardless of whether anyone else has it or not. Like, I have these things, and I'm super grateful for them. Because if you're not grateful for what you have now, you're not going to get what you want in the future. And I believe happiness is found in the journey, the destination, and the next evolution. A lot of people might disagree with this, because you hear it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. No, it's all 3. If you're on the journey, you better get to the destination, or you're going to be depressed, and you're going to hate your life, and you're going to think you're going to suck. What's the point of going on the journey if you're not going to get to the destination? Right? The journey is important too. Be happy along the small and intermediate steps it takes to get to the destination. Get out of the RV and look around, right? And then the next evolution, there's happiness and let me do this again. And Giannis winning the championship this year is a perfect example of this. It was totally Nick Saban-esque. It wasn't 2.5 minutes before he was like, let's do it again. But you saw when he won in Game 6, the emotions poured over him, and he sat alone and totally embraced the moment. He hugged his family beforehand, but he went and sat by himself and cried, because he did exactly what he set out to do and he said he would. And then 2.5 minutes later, he's like, I want to win another one. Because that's the elite mindset it takes to actually win the next one. It's what MJ had, it's what Kobe had, it's what Tom Brady has. And it's what we should have. We should find happiness in the journey, in the destination, and in the next evolution. And I don't see why it would be any different. So thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of Rapflex Radio. I was extremely excited to share this with you, and please let me know what you thought of this episode. Share it on your stories. Rate and review the podcast if you really enjoy this. I'm going to be more intentional about asking for that here on out. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. Until next time, have a great week.